Nerdly presents the feed where the reels unwind. Off the real podcast, digging deep in the grind. 80 flicks, low cash, big dreams in a frame. No blockbuster hype, just the realest in the game.
So yes, Nerdly Off the Reel. Nerdly presents Off the Reel. This is the podcast of the Romford Film Festival, the official podcast of the Romford Film Festival. Guys, we've just watched your film up on the big screen, Day of Vengeance. Do me a favour, let's go around and tell everybody who you are and what you did on the project.
So I'm Adam Kennedy, Adam R Kennedy officially. I wrote and directed the film, and yeah, spent a long time editing it.
I'm Dale Narty. I play Taft, the brother of the main character Chester.
And I'm Holly Eastwood, and I played the character of Hayes.
I'm Lucy Shrimpton, and I play the character of Millie.
So first of all, I want to jump back a little bit and find out a little bit more about yourselves and why you do what you do, because it's a crazy industry. We'll do it in this way. What was the first film that you guys kind of saw, the first project that you kind of saw, whether it's on the big screen, the little screen, as you were coming up, that made you want to be filmmakers? Not necessarily that inspired this film, but made you want to be filmmakers, made you want to be actors, made you want to be in this industry?
Okay, sure, I'll start.
It's a big question.
Yeah.
I think everybody's just going to look at you first for the answer.
Amazing. These are never easy questions. I think I don't know if there was one film in particular, that's the thing.
Yeah.
So my dad has always been a massive film nerd. Although I say a massive film, not in the same way I think you would think of a film nerd, but as in he's always shown us a lot of films. Yeah. And so I couldn't tell you, a lot of people that have their first memory of the first time they went to the cinema, I couldn't do that because I'm pretty sure the first time I went to the cinema was before I could talk.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I guess I've always liked writing. I've always liked showcasing things. I mean, the time when I realized I wanted to be a filmmaker was actually, I remember it quite well, because it was when I found out about this thing called the DSLR revolution.
Mm-hmm.
And before that, it had always been like, look, if you want to make a film, you need a huge studio, you need millions of pounds, dollars, because if you use like a crappy camcorder, it looks like it's filmed on a crappy camcorder. Mm-hmm. And then I found out, about these stills cameras that could actually produce cinema quality images for essentially affordable budgets. And I was like, oh shit. Mm-hmm. Sorry, are we allowed to swear?
Of course you are. Okay. Essentially, it's your podcast, so say what you want. Just go for it.
But yeah, I mean, that was, the spark, and from there it just kind of, I'd already been writing scripts, and so they stopped being theoretical things, they started becoming things of, okay, I want to film this, so let's see what I can film.
What made you guys want to become actors and be part of this?
For myself, it's been something that I've always pursued since a young person. I've always liked films. It wasn't until I was about...
Good job.
Everyone is unharmed.
Sorry, that was my bad.
That's how these tend to go, don't worry.
It wasn't until I was about 21 that I sort of started to pursue it more aggressively. Because I watched a lot of action films, that's the sort of example I had as to how I could engage film in the position or the way that I could get into films as an actor. So I started to train in different martial arts, and that's what I did for about 10 years, was train in boxing, kung fu, and Muay Thai. So I reached 30 now, went to acting school, completed acting school, and just started taking on roles as a background actor. Did that for some time, and then I released my first film, Sky in 2165, back in 2022. Which highlighted some of the fighting techniques that I had gone over. Which
I'm going to be checking out, by the way.
Yeah,
we were talking about that earlier, and I'm going to check that out.
On the Internet Archive as we speak, because I have to find for it. But then that, so then at that point, I'm sort of like freelance in a sense. Any role that's available, I take. So yeah, I met Adam, or I accepted an audition from Adam. And he liked the audition, so I got the role. It was just a part role, but I really liked what was going on as far as the script was concerned. Mm-hmm. And seeing the film today, it was just it turned out a lot better than I thought it would. I saw a lot.
Thanks for the faith.
No, not to say that I thought it was going to be rubbish, but it was really, really good. Like even if I wasn't in the film, as a film critic and a person that loves films, if I was to watch that film as just an audience member, it was a film that I would definitely love.
Thanks.
Because,
But even like to dig you a little bit of a hole there as well, like you could film something that looks amazing on the page, but you don't know what you've got until you see that final product.
That's exactly how it
really
was. Like
don't.
you don't know, as
Yeah.
coming from the creative vantage point, you don't really know until you see it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You just piece it together. It's like a puzzle, and then once you finally watch it, it's the puzzle completed. And seeing that, there's a lot of things that I've seen in that I haven't seen in other films. So it's really good for Adam to sort of come through, and I hope he gets all the credit that he deserves. It's a really, really good film.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, I would echo that. I guess I really realised what people say, that films are actually really made in the editing room, because like we only have exposure to certain scenes. Like obviously we have the script, but how it all comes together and kind of that final end product, it was really mind-boggling to see what Adam was able to create. And even the music, like we had no idea about the original soundtrack, which was just so impressive. So good job, Adam.
I just remember in the filming process where like between every single line you're like, can you do like 10 seconds of just not talking? And I was like, this is like, I don't know what's happening. But like you said, like it all comes together in the editing, and like it was great. Well done.
So in terms of Dear Vengeance, where did the initial idea come from? I see like a lot of influences, and I know you'll have taken influences. One that you didn't mention in the Q&A, but I got a real sense of Shane Meadows' Dead Man's Shoes. Was that at all like anything that inspired this film? And also, how did the movie start? Where did it come from?
Okay, this is embarrassing. I haven't seen that film.
Oh my god, check it out. It is awesome.
No, I absolutely will. There are so many. The thing is, I could sit here for an hour and talk about different influences. It's like, I took this scene from this film, and in terms of where the influences, I didn't really talk about that much. I'm just trying to think. I really liked that film by Von Trier, The House That Jack Built.
Okay.
And so, like, the last thing I made, it was a feature in some ways, in other ways it was a collection of shorts called Down South and Walks Through the Trees. And it was sort of like in, I guess, a less focused, similar motif. And that was quite similar to The House That Jack Built in a lot of ways, and that was quite encouraging. But then there were a lot of things that were different. And so I think building off that was, can I refine this? And so in terms of where did the actual spark for this start with, though? It was those two films I mentioned, The Outfit and The Batman.
Yeah.
So completely different ideas. Like, I sort of had an idea from, I don't know how other people write, but I just kind of write scenes, ideas, and then I'll come back to them in a few months, and I just had two completely different ones. And at some point I was like, hey, these might kind of mash together. But I mean, really, it was like, I think watching The Batman, I was just like, that's a really cool film. But look, don't get me wrong, I've got nothing against superhero films, but sometimes I'm just like, that would be a lot better if it wasn't a superhero film.
Yeah, the great thing about the Batman, I'm a Batman fan, I'm a huge Batman fan, so you've lost a friend there.
No, for the record, I love that film. Like, I wouldn't be talking about this film so much if I didn't love it.
You really haven't, but like the thing that I also loved about that version of Batman is like that could very easily be any story ever. Like it doesn't necessarily have to be a superhero film. Like it just is, So I totally get what you're saying with that. In terms of your casting process, and I'll throw this out to our cast, what was it about the script? What was it about the story? What was it about your characters that made you guys want to play them? But also, what qualities did you think you had to bring to the table?
I feel like mine was a bit out there. I remember reading, I was like, this is interesting because I don't really know why I'm going for it, because it's nothing like me at all. But like you kind of said in the Q&A, like these people, I'm sure they do exist, but that is just not me at all, 16-year-old druggy runaway. Couldn't really relate.
There were a lot of actresses who applied who were sort of more similar to that role, and I picked you for a reason, because I think to me it was very clear that I needed someone who was acting and not someone who was just kind of embodying it.
Oh wow, I had no idea about that, but no, it was definitely I don't know, I just read it and I was like, this is not me at all. So it was definitely a challenge, but an exciting challenge. And I remember I did one take for you. I can't remember if I did the second tape or we had a phone call and then I did the second tape.
I think that's right.
But also just the phone call with you, I was like, oh my God, he's great. Like, so also I felt like it was partially the people that we were going to be working with. I wanted it to be a good experience and I definitely got that from you. But mainly from the script was the fact I was like, it's just different for me. And so I wanted to give it a go and hopefully did an okay job.
You did a fantastic job. You did. And what was it about the character that drew you in?
Yeah, I think the script itself, there was just so many unexpected moments in it. Like I found every turn of the page, I was like, oof, this is interesting because the character arcs, there were so many different points that I could pinpoint where I just felt I wasn't expecting that. Like I thought Chester would be different. I thought he would act in a different way. And there was just always surprises around the corner. But I think for Hayes, I just loved her because I think at the start, you know, she's kind of in control, she's trying to keep a handle on things, but really she has no understanding of what's actually going on, and Chester has kind of run away in sort of this quest, and when it catches up to her, you kind of see that moment where it's betrayal, but it's that moment where she realizes that this wasn't what she signed up for, and I don't think she's achieving the goal of what they really wanted.
Yeah, because up until that point, you're kind of like, you are the badass boss bitch kind of thing, and then you really aren't.
Yeah, exactly. At all. And I think it's, you know, and I love too that she had moments where, you know, with Millie, even though she was trying to keep up that facade of not really caring, she did feel for you, and she was and you know, I hadn't played a character like that had different moments that led into her personality, and I just really enjoyed that kind of variance with the character. But I definitely, I think the relationships and how they unfolded between each character was really interesting as well. But even just the fact too of how it was shot, like I hadn't really worked in that kind of filmmaking where it was so independent. You know, you didn't have the big budget, you were kind of piecing it together, different lighting, you were experimenting, and even all of us being in that room and kind of the characters coming in and out, like I loved that style. So there was definitely different elements that drew me to it for sure, but the shooting process, I think I learned so much even from just watching how Adam worked and even how the other cast got on. So yeah, it was great experience.
You're referencing when you were holding the light on. You're not saying it, but
We were all lighting.
Yeah, we got so much. We got to touch on so many different roles with not just acting.
If you see some behind the scenes photos, there's a great one of Holly just like standing holding the light, and she was so proud of herself.
And I did a phenomenal job. I mean, people shake. Like I thought I did great in that.
You were sitting there today going, oh my God, that was me.
I was like, exactly.
The lighting person, absolutely nailed it.
Exactly.
I love that. And that's what independent collaboration's all about, absolutely. Yeah. And in terms of your character, like, what made you want to play it? What made you want to come in and play in this sandbox?
I've never really played with a role like that before. It deals with a lot of themes: death, revenge, violence, anger, drugs, and the like. So it was something new for me. And as an actor, dying in films isn't something that you want to get involved in too much because it ruins your credibility.
You don't want to be Sean Bean.
Yeah, that's right. It's just you know, as far as films are concerned, it's about problem solving. So now, if your character's constantly dying, it's almost like a cop out that, you know, you as an actor didn't have what it takes to finish or accomplish what needs to be done as an entire. So as an actor, this was the first time that I've ever died in a film, or one of my characters has died in a film. But you know, it's something that sort of had to happen. So I don't know if Adam is proud that he got to the chance to kill me, you know, or kill one of my characters. But yeah, you know, it was it's an interesting concept because, you know, Taft, in the film he did kill somebody.
Yeah.
And I'm not really sure, in a sense, if he, you know, expected himself to be killed in the end. But a lot of people, like in real life, they know that, you know, they don't really care whether they get killed or not. You know, there's a lot of themes in there that could be played on. And even though it was a small role, I did train for like 6 weeks. You know,
the art of dying.
Yeah, you know, like I trained properly. You know, like a principal role. But you know, it's just the script as an entire was really interesting, but I didn't know how it was going to end. that's the reason why I came here, because I really wanted to see how it was going to end.
Did I never send you the full script?
No, I didn't get a copy.
Oh my god, I'm sorry, man.
So it was really interesting for me to come in and see how the film turned out, and the performances by the cast were just really, really strong. So it turned out to be really, really good.
And on set, obviously, this is one of those movies like there's a lot of dialogue, kind of two-handers going on. So I would assume you would want it to kind of be how you wrote it. But was there anything that happened on set that you maybe could never have planned for, and actually it shaped the narrative in a different way, and you went with it?
Yes. I'm trying to think of specific examples, but I'm going to let you guys think answer that first, because I feel like you've got... No?
I'm trying to think.
Okay.
Maybe just like a line of dialogue that you guys came up on the day, can we try this? And he's like, yeah, go for it.
Well, the time that I shot with Adam, it was very, very straightforward. Adam wanted it in a certain way, and that's just how it ended up. Which was I appreciated, because I like that cut and dry aspect of it. As far as improvising, there was nothing much for me to improvise.
I don't think there was much improvisation, but there were definitely scenes that unfolded slightly different to how they've been written. Yeah. So the one that immediately springs to mind, which is the first one I want to mention, there was a scene with Millie and Hayes where they're sort of chatting, and this is sort of where they're first connecting. Mm-hmm. And in the script, it's a little bit more intimate. But then when we got onto the set wasn't really designed that way. Like, it didn't really quite translate visually in the same way it was written. And so we sort of had to play around with that to see what worked. And I remember I was so frustrated. And
yeah.
You say, this is what I thought.
I do remember too, though, like even in that, as the characters, it felt almost, for it to be closer than that, it felt almost forced. Like, I felt like even though we were kind of connecting as characters in that, I think the distance that we had, like I was still, even though I saw you as someone younger and maybe needed help, I still felt conscious. Like, I felt a little bit suspicious of you, and I think you felt the same for me. Yeah. So I think the space, like, it worked well in that scene, because we were taking steps closer to connection, but it wasn't quite right to be close together either. And Adam was very open to that, kind of taking on how we felt in that scene, and that we wanted to maintain that sort of distance, I guess.
I was going to say, I feel like I remember doing that so many different ways that you wanted to try, but also touching on like what you say about improvisation. I feel like you had such a strong vision and you went with that, and I was more than happy to go with that, because you obviously, it's your film, you wrote it, you know what you want, and I think that's great. Like I think that's a great quality to have, that you had it in your brain. Obviously things don't always turn out the way, kind of like you said about the spacing between us, but it looked alright.
And seeing it up there on the big screen today, obviously you'll have been watching it on your laptop all this time, editing and everything like that. You guys will have seen little parts of it and everything. But seeing it up on the big screen today, you could tell me everything that's wrong with your movie. A shot that went on a bit too long, a shot that was a little bit out of focus, a shot, all these different things. Boom mic coming into the screen. Sometimes happens. When you saw it on the big screen today, what are you most proud of? What's that one shot or that moment in the movie that you thought, fuck, that looks awesome? And for you guys, performance-wise?
Again, I'll let you guys go first.
I feel like I know one for myself. It was one of the last days of shooting, which was the scene where I get killed. Straight to the point. I remember filming it, and obviously like the lighting and stuff was really cool there, like the red lights and stuff like that. But I remember I was in such awe around me, like watching Casey and James fully just in the zone, and I remember feeling in the moment like, wow, this is really cool. Yeah. And I was really excited to watch that scene, because I remember how strongly I felt that, and I watched it and I felt exactly the same, if not more. And that's definitely also the bit, sorry, there's loads I can think of, where the red lights were flashing and suddenly Chester appears with the gun and the shadow comes out. I loved that. That was great.
What did you think about your scream?
I didn't think about that, because I recorded that in my car. Nice. One random Saturday afternoon, just screaming into my phone, because Adam sent me an email being like, oh, I don't know how many months past it was, but like, do you mind just sending some screams over? But I had no idea how it would fit in. Like, obviously, I wasn't expecting it to sound like I am in a car, but I felt like I was watching it happen then and there. So
Like, those screens were perfect, by the way.
I guess it's like 10. I even said it. I was like, I'm so sorry for your ears.
No, I was really. I heard that note, and I was like, I wanted to scream into the screen. I was like, no, these are perfect. Thank you. Like, honestly, I was upset I couldn't use more of them. Like, I was like, can I just shove them in a random place in the film?
Montage at the end.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, I mean, definitely, and as well, because I wasn't there for that shoot, that scene at the end where, like, you can hear the lights going on and off again. It's that element of, you don't know what's going to happen next, and I loved that. So that scene, whenever he appears, like, that was class at the end. I really enjoyed that. And I think, too, actually, the opening scene, I knew that you guys went to shoot that in the at the Tube, but I just thought it looked so good at the start, like in terms of walking into it, and Chester, like that shot whenever he's getting off the tube from behind him. I don't know, I just thought it set the scene and the tone of the film really well. Sometimes that doesn't always happen, but I felt like it really set that tone, and the music as well happened with that. So yeah, those were two standouts, but it was just great.
What about your own performance? What?
I still find it really hard to watch my own performance. I hope I did Hayes justice, but definitely I think the phone call where she starts piecing things together, you know, and I think, you know, even in that, she's just, you see her then almost sort of I think she's kind of been supporting Chester down this path, which I think she's realised now is just so dark that she's really almost did him an injustice. I think she feels like responsible. Yeah. And then I think when she like considers killing Millie, obviously, like you can just see them, like that is there's so much trouble inside her soul at that point. I think that like that was a really cool one to shoot.
You gave such a good like emotional look.
I think it was just really, as I said, I just felt, I was like, I can't believe she didn't know. I remember reading it being like, I can't believe that he has lied to her. Like it was just, it was an accumulation of so much emotion for Hayes, and I think she has a real point in that where she switches, where she can kill it. Maybe some of the other characters don't have as much, whereas I feel like Hayes was a real turning point for her, like when that happened. So that was class to play as an actor, and also it was really good to see on the screen, even though I still hate watching myself.
It is one of those things as well. Your character, in a way, is kind of like the audience. Like that's how I felt watching it. Like obviously we spend a lot of time with your character, we spend a lot of time, but your character, when you dip in and out, I kind of feel like that's me in there. Yeah. So then when you find out, that's when I'm finding out, and I say, I was as pissed off as you were.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
I'm so glad you said that, by the way, because that was definitely the point.
Okay. I'm a film fan, I get it. And in terms of yourself, like seeing things up on the screen today, what are you most proud of?
I like the fact that it was all shot at night, or like 90% of it was shot at night. I think there was one scene during the day, and it was a funeral or something to that effect. So it just kept the tone from the start to finish. You know, it's just because the elements of the story are so dark. Having it shot at night was an excellent idea. And the neon as well. The different neon aspects gives it that modern feel. It doesn't feel like a film from yesteryear or anything that's not present. It really brought it into present time. So that's probably the elements I like the most, because it all pieces together. The themes, the fact that it was all shot at night, and you know, these are tones, or these are subjects that, you know, we're going to be facing throughout humanity, you know, throughout time, space. These are issues we're always going to be facing. So it just brought it all together in present time, and that's why I would choose that as a standout element.
So, I mean, this is
everything.
Everything was amazing. I mean, it changes every few months because I had to watch this 100 times over at least. But the scene that's consistently, I've always just been like in love with visually, was the parking garage, car park. Okay. And I don't know if anyone even agrees with me on this, but so James playing Chester and Patrick playing Jamie, they had such good chemistry together. Like they were, you know, I was like, so you're basically just gonna run up to him and hit him with a hammer. Don't worry, he won't actually hurt. And then they just like went for it, and I don't know what it was. It was like they had been friends forever. And yeah, no, it was so, it looked great to me, and it felt so nice. It was I thought that was going to be one of the hardest days to shoot, and it turned out to just not at all be difficult. And they, just the way it unfolded, the way it turned out, in everything about that, I look and I'm like, yeah, that's, if I could advertise the film with just one scene, it'd probably be that scene.
Be that wide shot with the looking down. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
That's got to go in a trailer, 100%.
I mean, so there's a montage at the end, and I showed that scene twice for a reason, because I couldn't decide which angle I preferred.
The wide is brilliant. It's a gorgeous little shot there. Although you've kind of already spoiled the ending a little bit, I don't really want to do too many spoilers, but one thing that really pissed me off about your film, but also I really like about your film, it is something I really like, because you do subvert like a little bit of the expectation, is the one character in this movie that I thought was almost completely innocent, and I genuinely thought, that's our surviving character. And you flip that, and like people who are genuinely evil get away, like live. Was that always the case? Was that always your ending, to make sure that our innocent as such character? Because that pissed me off, by the way.
Okay, so I remember writing it, and I had most of an outline. I think it was about 2/3, maybe 3/4 of the thing outlined. I was like, I'll figure out the rest of it whilst as I write it.
Yeah. And
I got to a scene where there was a branching path. It was like, either this is the case or this is the case. And I was like, I like both of these, but I have to choose one or the other. And in the end, I just kind of chose one of them. And I mean, even now, I still like, should I have done the other one? But when I chose the branch I chose, it felt right. It all unfolded in a way that felt very natural to me. And I don't want to. I'm not one of these people who thinks that you've constantly got to subvert expectations.
No.
But at the same time, I think you do have to play a little bit with what people do expect. And so there's definitely an attempt to lead you down a path that feels very familiar.
Yeah.
But then, in some places be like, but what if, like you think it's from this perspective, but what if the real story is actually from this perspective?
Yeah.
I think though it kind of enforces the message though, that, like that pursuit of vengeance, like, that he's ended up totally alone with also the guilt of Millie's. Sorry, I don't want to say, it's probably a spoiler.
Well, no, it's
But,
because you even right at the last minute, so you do that, and I'm sitting there going, don't know how I feel about this. But then instantly you bait and switch a little bit, because you sit there for a little bit longer, and I'm thinking, it's going to be okay. There's going to be like a moment, and she's going to get up. It's going to be okay. So you linger on it for a minute, and it's excruciatingly painful, and then it doesn't happen. You're like, oh my God. And then you get the letter at the end, and that's when I say, well, that's what he was doing. That's exactly what he was doing. So no, I do like it. It just annoyed me a little bit. And when you keep playing like that. So with that said, what is the message you want people to take away from this movie when they are thinking about it in the car journey home, and a couple of days later when it's still playing on their minds? What is the message that you hope people take, and this is for everyone, take away from this film?
Do you guys want to? I'll tell you what, actually. I remember on set, and you guys hopefully remember this. A really big motif in the film was Chester's mask.
Mm-hmm.
And when I wrote it, I knew the mask was really important. I was like, on the surface, it's like the mask is really cool, and that's just a lot of the aesthetic. Like a lot of the film was born just from me thinking, yeah, it'd be really cool to have some guys in masks shoot some people. But as I wrote it, it became clear that the mask wasn't just a cool thing he was wearing; there was something more to it. But at the same time, I never stopped and was like, well, what does the mask mean? It was very much like, yeah, it means something, but that's not the point. And then there was a moment on set where I was like, the mask is actually really important. And there's a shot where Chester, I think he's opposite Millie, and the mask is on the table and he's just got his hand resting on it.
Yeah.
And so I asked you guys, I was like, what do you think the mask means? What's the point of the mask in the story? and you gave me some interesting answers. And so it sort of took me a while, but I sort of, in my head, I think I know what the mask represents, but it's one of those things where I wouldn't want to say it because I think the mask is central to the film. And so I think, do I want people to go away thinking about? I guess I want you to go away and think about the mask.
Excellent.
I think I could get on board with that because now you say that.
Is this you just trying to sell masks? Did you make this mask and you're going to put it in the shop?
I did not mention I have an online store where I'm selling
Yeah,
masks.
I'm wondering.
It's also a small business owner.
Yeah. Sorry, you were about to
No,
say.
I was saying, now you say that, I remember that. And I didn't remember at the time, but watching it, there was that scene as well where he had it in his hand and was just like looking at it. And now you're saying that, I'm like, oh my God, yeah, that does make sense. So I'm going to jump on board with your idea. And so only because I didn't remember that at the time, but now I'm like, there's a bit of a full circle moment now, I think.
Awesome.
So it worked for your cast, didn't it? And yourself?
Yes, I mean, I do. It's funny. I didn't remember whenever you started speaking about that. I was like, I don't remember this happening. But now that I do remember us sitting around that table, and I think we just got the light and sort of you bringing it up. But yeah, I think it's just, I guess the bad things that people can do as a result of grief as well. I think that it's such a strong message in terms of grief and what road you can go down. And even though people support you, as they did for each other, I guess what you end up losing in the long term can be even worse. So I think that plus obviously what he had to become with that mask, I guess says it all really.
Yeah, I mean, at a point in the film, Chester, the character, he states that he pretty much lost control of himself. Like he said, he was just, in a place where his body was just doing things without his control or his, without him. Without his consent. But, it's just like, certain circumstances and situations trying to, control your emotions. I mean, that it's a bit deeper than that when, you got a body count of 6 or 7 people. But, it's I don't want to spoil it, but the end really left a lot for me that at that point, when all was said and done, he still reflected on what had taken place. He didn't have to, but he still reached that place of humanity. So, it's just sort of understand the importance of family and what the emotions that you may go through when things or bad things happen to them, and just be wary of that and the power that has, the power of family and the love that you have between siblings and mother and father and the like. So just be sort of, mindful of those emotions and those feelings.
What I would add to that, because you're talking about that end, monologue, and again, I had this in the spoiler. It's a shame, James isn't here because he was filming. He was supposed to be here. We're really upset with him. Holly and Lucy, you might remember in the script the monologue, but if you do remember, then the monologue's slightly different in the script to what's on the screen.
Okay. So
we recorded the original monologue, and it was fine, and I edited that together. And I think it's one of those things that I think it was back in August, September. So about the same time, I emailed Lucy, and I was like, hey, I need some screams. I emailed James, and I was like, the monologue, it needs to change. And so the monologue is very similar, but it's a bit different. And the big difference is there's an element of self-reflection in that. That I think I couldn't really have written without, spending a year editing the film. So don't get me wrong, the original monologue was still self-reflecting the character, but then I think there's a bit of a meta element to it now.
Okay.
So again, I don't really want to spoil what he says in the monologue, but if you remember some of the words specifically he says, then it's very much a case of looking at, me personally, looking at the story in a slightly different light and being like, have I just kind of... Is the character looking at this in kind of a selfish way just from his perspective in the first place?
Right. So what you're going to end up doing is, what you're saying right now is you're going to end up doing like a Ridley Scott Blade Runner kind of thing. In 10 years' time, we're going to get a director's cut, and then we'll get another director's cut.
Oh, no, don't get me wrong. I'm still editing the film, so...
I do like that, though. Like, you spent some time editing with it, and you've had your experiences on set, and then it's kind of resonated somewhere else with you, and say, I've got another way of writing this, I like that, and for you to even have that sort of fortitude to go in and actually replace something or to fix something a little bit, top man, that's exactly what it's about. What kind of responses have you been getting, or feedback have you been getting when you've been showing it to friends, family, or when it's been getting screened anywhere? Like, what kind of responses do you tend to get?
I mean, generally people are very, very positive, which is amazing. So I haven't shown it to many people, but I'm just trying to think. I'd say less than 20 people before today had, aside from online people who don't count.
Of course they count. Just don't listen to them.
But yeah, I mean, so it's been like there haven't been that many people, but those who have seen it have been so helpful. So also not here who is Ishbel, who was our production assistant, who was absolutely incredible and vital in the creation of it. But so she saw a rough cut however many months ago, and she gave me so much helpful feedback. She was like, look, this works really well, but this, is a bit awkward, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
And so, yeah, I mean, that's basically been it. Like, in the beginning, it was very much like, look, you've got something rough here, that you sharpen it, this can be great. And then in the later terms, it's been like, I just really enjoyed that, and that's what I want to hear, basically. If someone comes up and is like, yeah, I enjoyed that film, then I'm just like, awesome. That's what I aim to do. Like, if you think about it, that's awesome. Like, if you're like, oh, I wonder what this means, like, great.
Yeah.
But at the end of what I really want is you to just be like, yeah, I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
I was entertained.
And it is a very enjoyable film, and you can look at it on so many different layers. Like, we've spoken about a few of the different layers right now, which I've had good therapy doing this. So, what's next for everyone? Could we potentially get the band back together and go down this sort of universe again? Different story, but this universe? Or what is next for everyone?
Well, so again, not to spoil anything.
I mean, there's a few characters that,
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I like the universe, and I've been writing something that would theoretically be set in the same universe, but a whole new set of characters. But yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed working with all the actors on this film, and I would absolutely love to work with them again. So if you guys are free at some point, then
You could always do like an American Horror Story, and you've got the same cast, just different characters.
Absolutely.
There you go, brilliant.
Yeah, no, I'd love that.
And you guys, what's coming up next? What are you working on?
Myself, I'm working on a sequel to my first film. It's called 2170 Sky is the Limitless. So I'm basically working on that whenever I have a spare moment. I work full time, so I don't get a lot of time to work on film, or as much time as I'd like to. So at any point, I would like, because Adam, is really good at films, or really good with films. If I could get his viewpoint on some, some scenes, and they're like, I'll pay you.
No, just give me an executive producer credit, and I'm good.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, I'm just working on that project for the time being.
But earlier in the year I shot a film in Ireland called Tale of the Whispering Woods. So it's now kind of done. It's been hopefully doing the festival circuit as well. So yeah, hopefully from that we'll see what comes from it. But yeah, just trying to. It's difficult, I think. As Adam kind of mentioned, film school, and if you haven't been to like drama school and stuff, like those are the kind of immediate doors sometimes for actors if you haven't started at a young age. So definitely, I think the route that we've all taken, which is just trying to jump in and get experience on set, it's kind of different in terms of a path for an actor, but it's definitely, I think, it's been such a good learning curve. So hopefully, just more films to come.
Are you still based over in Ireland, or?
No, so I'm based over here now, but my agent is in Ireland, so some of the work that I'm getting seems to be over there at the minute, but hopefully I'll be able to get a UK agent and start shooting stuff over here.
People see this film, what will happen?
Well, mine's much less exciting. No, I was, this is going to sound so cliche, I was casting something late last year, but I was unfortunately taken ill. So was unable to do that, and I've been moving house recently, so I've been so busy with that, but I am open. I'm excited because this was honestly one of the best things I've ever done. I loved every single minute of it, and I think about it all the time.
Helped when you're in practically every scene as well.
No, I loved every single moment, and so I am hopefully when I'm a bit less busy and the house stuff calms down, then yeah, I'm definitely open and excited to do something else.
Have I got this right? Was this your first on-screen role?
It was,
Wow.
yes.
See, you wouldn't guess, would you?
No, not at
Jumped
all.
right in.
Not at all. Especially like the two-handed stuff is never like I always, when I watch films, I always wonder like, is running down the street as hard as sitting but like face to face with someone and delivering like a lot of dialogue? Surely it's not. So you're in this a lot. You're given a lot of dialogue, a lot of emotion. The film kind of hinges on you. So yeah, you've done a fantastic job. Pat yourself
I
on the
credited
back
you
there.
first for a reason.
No, I did this all the time growing up as a kid. Like I've always been into musical theatre, and drama was like my favourite subject. So did all that, and then I got to a point where I think I was 18 or 19, and it was always something I kept under wraps of wanting to do. But I was like, oh, why not? Just go for it. Like,
Yeah.
what can you lose? And the answer was nothing, because
Exactly.
I got this amazing experience, which I'm so grateful to you for. Loved every second of it.
So, I mean, I don't know if there's time, but can I share a story about the casting, Lucy?
Yeah.
So you don't know this. Right. The role of Millie was...
Stalked you for like 2 years.
Sorry, you didn't see
After
me,
me.
but I was there. No. It was a role that I think a lot of people... Well, I got a lot of attention for the role, so a lot of people applied for it. And so, I asked for self-tapes, and then I sort of narrowed it down, and then I talked to everyone, and then I had another self-tape, and that was sort of the process. When it came to that second self-tape, which was sort of the... In fact, let's start back a little bit. First self-tape. Your self-tape, it was good. It was not... When I watched it, I was not thinking, this is my Millie Evans. I was thinking, she can do it. She has something there. But, are there other people who can do it maybe better? I don't know. It was very much a touch and go. And then I talked to you, and you had an amazing attitude. I was like, I'd definitely like to work with her, and I definitely can work with her. But then there was the second self-tape, because I remember I sent very specific instructions. I was like, look, here's about 7-8 pages. Just choose sort of like 3 pages that you like, and, give me those. And you sent me like a 10-15 minute self-tape.
Yeah, I did.
And I was like, oh. I was like,
I'm not
okay.
the type to watch this today.
Yes, I was like, really, like, and I was having doubts. And then I remember I started watching it. I was like, look, I'll watch it for a couple of minutes, and that would be enough to decide. And I get to the end of the self-tape, and I'm like, did I just watch the whole thing? And like, I was literally just engrossed the entire way through. It was that good. And after that, I was like, yeah, I cannot choose anyone else. So yeah, no,
My
absolutely nailed it.
self-esteem. Thank
No,
you.
no,
That's so kind.
and applause to all of you, because this is a fantastic little movie. I think it's brilliant, and thanks for letting us show it up there. It looked absolutely fantastic. Even though I have said a lot of good things about this movie, I am now going to ask you to do something with this movie, and you're not going to like it. So I'm going to ask you to go back and reshoot one scene in the movie. However, when you reshoot the scene, it's going to be as a musical
Okay.
with a musical number. What scene would you reshoot? What would the musical number be, and why? Just a nice way to take us out of the conversation.
I think the most underrated Disney song is "Go the Distance" in Hercules.
Wow, okay.
Oh, I can't think of it. I'm trying to think. Might have to sing
I'm not going to
for
sing
me
it.
I was gonna say, put yourself on the spot now.
No, it's, so you don't get a copyright strike, obviously.
Obviously, because I care about those things.
But yeah, no. So you want to make it a musical? I'd put that song in just every scene.
Every scene.
And it'd bring the audience along. It'd be great.
And is there any musical numbers that you would like to perform in any of your scenes? I mean, you almost have a little bit of one. You do have a dance.
I don't know if a musical number, but I think if we made one, it'd have to be one of the, like, shooting scenes with gunography, if that's even a thing, and pirouettes, and I think that would add a great twist to the whole thing.
Gunography, I like that.
Lighten the mood a little bit.
I feel like too we should get the handheld lights on it. Like a musical, hold on, I just think that would
You're
be
really proud of yourself, aren't you?
like honestly, that would be class.
Just like doing the
Yeah.
hospital lights. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Strobes, everything. It'd be insane.
Get some light sticks as well.
Yeah.
Do some 12s.
Well, I didn't really, there wasn't much going on with my character. I was just
It would
sitting
give you
down.
some more to do.
Yeah. I don't know, maybe. I'm not sure.
Just
to be honest.
die more theatrically.
Yeah, maybe, what would you do with a drunken sailor? I could I'm only saying that because I watched the Truman Show yesterday. So that's the first thing that came to mind.
But no, thank you guys so much for submitting the movie to the festival, to Romford. Thank you for sitting down and doing this with me today and letting us have it up there. But most of all, just thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Anything you guys do going forward, let us know what's happening. Submit to us. Myself at Nerdly, let me know what's going on, and you've got fans in us. So
Amazing, thank you.
Thank you so much.
thank you.